Thank you. Thank you very much, Tracy. Boy, oh boy, that Brandon guy sounds good. If you run into him backstage, let me know. I want to have a few words. How are you guys doing? Good. How's the event going so far? Good. Yeah? Yeah? Are you excited about Richard Robbins? My understanding is that his keynote is going to be slightly more uplifting than the morning one. I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised you guys are not at the pub right now drinking. Boy, oh boy. Well, buckle up, because it's only going to get better from here. And I just want to say I really appreciate you guys choosing this breakout session. I saw the list before I came here. There's a lot of great sessions to choose from, and the fact that you're here or that the other one is full and you just needed somewhere to sit for the next 50 minutes. Either way, I really appreciate you being here. Today, we're here to talk about technology. Specifically, 4 different types of technology that I believe are going to have a significant impact on our future as an industry in the next 5 to 10 years. So if anyone's thinking about retiring in the next 2 years, 3 years, feel free, just go on your phone now, live tweet, it's okay. But for anyone who's going to be in here for the next 5 years and longer, pay attention. We're going to go through each of these technologies one by one, and I'm going to basically take you through what it is, how it works, and it's just like, Fred, it's literally like a sales meeting at Remax. Seriously. Where would I be without Fred's phone going off during one of my presentations? I don't know. Can we start over? Is that okay? Anyway, so we're going to talk about these different technologies. We're going to talk about what they do, how they work, and then I'd like to give you guys some examples both of in our industry and outside of our industry so you can see it. But before we do, you ready for this? I want to make sure we're all in the right frame of mind because we're going to be going through a lot of content. It might feel a little overwhelming at times. So I just want to hit the reset button for a second. And what I'd like to do is walk you guys through a bit of a guided visualization, if you will, on what your life could look like if you were to embrace technology to the fullest in the future. Are you guys ready? That's the participation part. Are you guys ready? Yeah, okay, fantastic. So everyone please sit up straight in their chair, feet nice on the floor, a couple deep breaths. You never thought you'd be doing this in a breakout session, did you? Let's find our chi. I want to take you back to your bedroom. I mean, I want you to take yourself back to your bedroom this morning. All right, last night before you went to bed, you set your alarm for 7 a.m. And this morning, it went off at 6:53. Why 7 minutes early, you ask? Well, that's because your Sense smart alarm clock on your bedside table has been monitoring your sleeping patterns the entire night and has decided right now is the perfect time to wake you up so you're not feeling groggy, you're feeling really refreshed. We've all been there before. We oversleep, you wake up, you're right in REM and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to bed. Also known as like every day in my life, but there's your Sense alarm clock helping you out. When you flick your lights on, you're not startled by the bright light. You're actually welcomed with a nice warm ambience, and that's because your Philips smart light bulbs are calibrated to just how you like it in the morning. You heard me. As you're laying in bed starting to gather your thoughts, you can feel that warm rush of hot air come into your room. That's your smart Nest thermostat. You see, it's been monitoring your heating habits for the last 90 days and knows that you like to go to sleep at 17 degrees, but you love to live at 23. Then you get out of bed, you go into the bathroom where your Toto Flowski toilet analyzes your, well, you know, and it comes out with a report to your phone that says you're actually deficient in certain minerals and vitamins. Oh yeah. And that you should probably lay off the wine on weekdays. Then you go downstairs to your kitchen, and your Baymore coffee brewer's got the absolute perfect cup of joe waiting for you, hot off the press. And you know who else is in your kitchen? Your virtual assistant, Alexa, with the Amazon Echo. Alexa welcomes you, says good morning. She goes on to tell you that your typical 30-minute commute is going to be more like 60 minutes. She knows that because she's been communicating with your Garmin Speak smart GPS. She also tells you that you're low on milk and eggs, but not to worry because she's already placed an order on your behalf from Amazon Go, and your groceries will be at your doorstep sometime this afternoon. Now you've finished that perfect cup of coffee and you're ready to conquer your day. So you say, hey Alexa, what's on my schedule today? That's when Alexa tells you that your virtual lead assistant has been scrubbing internet leads all night while you caught up on some much needed rest and has 3 people for you to follow up with this morning to set appointments with. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Right? She also reminds you to plug in your VR headsets because this afternoon you're going to a new client's house to take them through some virtual showings. Now you're ready to head out on your day. You walk into your garage where your electric car is there waiting for you fully charged with the interior cabin perfectly heated at, you guessed it, 23 degrees. Just the way you like it. Now you're ready to brave the traffic, but you don't actually mind because your car, well, it's self-driving. So this is going to give you an opportunity to catch up on that old spy novel you've been wanting to read. Or romance novel, I don't know, however you roll. It's an incredible time to be alive. The year is 2018. Now, if you're finding yourself feeling a little skeptical right now, I don't blame you. There's a lot of what I just went through with you that even myself I found to be a little skeptical. But consider this for a second. Every single thing I just walked you through, every piece of technology, and everything else I'm going to walk you through for the rest of today's session is commercially available today. You can buy it if you want to. In fact, some of these technologies have actually been out for consecutive years now. Now, if we look a little bit back in time as a way to see how technologies come on the scene, you don't have to look very far back to find different examples of technology that maybe at first we were resistant to, and maybe we even wanted to avoid it. For example, do you guys remember the launch of the iPhone? 2007, guys. 11 years ago. What were you doing 11 years ago? Think back to your life pre-smartphone. The iPhone came out and it paved the way for an entire shift in how we communicate with our clients, how we run our business, and how we run our lives. What about social media? You know, the stuff that we love to spend our time on when we're at work saying we're putting in a day's work. I know who in my office, you know who I'm talking about right now. Facebook was launched in 2004. And Instagram in 2010, and has completely changed the way we communicate with our clients, as well as our family members, and even, unfortunately, our parents in some cases. Does anyone have a mom or dad on Facebook or Instagram? Oh, the worst, right? The worst. Yeah, Nicole, you know well. Wait, is your mom in the room right now? Oh, this is awkward. Next slide. What about TouchBase? You know, when I got licensed in 2009, I remember having to pick the 7 or 8 properties we were going to show. Of course, it was a buyer's market back then, a little more inventory to choose from. And I would have to actually call each brokerage. Do you guys remember this? Show of hands, who remembers having to do that? Yeah, right? We'd call around and we'd spend anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes on hold waiting for the call center to answer so we could request the appointment. And then we'd give our office number in exchange so that those people could call our office number because we didn't want to give out our cell phone, right? TouchBase has come and completely streamlined the way we communicate with each other as professionals. And let's not even start with DocuSign and how much time and inconvenience it's saved both us and our clients. That's why I want to center this talk around this concept, is technology is changing the way we sell real estate, and our roles as realtors are being redefined. Now, when you hear that at first, it's easy to feel a little scared. You know, fear of the unknown is a real thing. So my goal today is to shine a light on some of the technologies that are coming down the pipe, encourage you and empower you with some easy steps on how you can just dabble and see if you like it, see if you don't like it, confirm some of your beliefs or misbeliefs about it. And the goal today would be, if you're feeling like this, I'd want you to walk out feeling a little bit more like that. Are you guys ready? Yes. All right, let's plug in. The first thing we're going to cover today is augmented reality. Now, augmented reality is when you take your real world surroundings and you layer digital assets on top of it. What do I mean by that? Anyone in here use Snapchat? Any Snapchat users? Yeah? So you know that, or you maybe don't use it, but you've seen it before where people take those photos and it turns into like a chipmunk face, right? Or like they open their mouth and fire comes out. That's augmented reality, right? Now, typically we interact with augmented reality one of two ways. The primary way is with our mobile devices. So you hold your phone up And through the screen, you can see like the real world, but then there's digital things layered on top. The other way is in the eyewear industry. But let's be honest, look how dorky this looks, even for me. If we look far out in the future, we will have eyewear that has AR capabilities. We're going to have contact lenses that do. But right now, for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm thinking we're going to have a little bit too much social awareness to walk outside looking like that, and we'll probably just stick to using AR on our phones. Now, if you want to find some real-world examples of augmented reality in play, look at Google Translate. Google Translate is an app that you can download on your phone that allows you to interact with other languages, and it will translate it right on your phone into English. So if you're in a foreign country and you see a road sign and you don't know what it means, you're looking for a pub this way or something like that, or you're at a restaurant looking to order something off the menu, but you can't read it because it's not in English. You just take out your phone, you look at the menu, and it will actually translate it right on your screen into English. Last January, I spent 3 weeks in Thailand, and I can tell you Google Translate saved me from eating some pretty nasty stuff. Then we have House. House is the interior design home decorating app. Now, the House app has been around for a long time, but in the last year, they've actually released AR capabilities to their program. What House allows you to do is actually take furniture from their catalog on the phone and virtually place it in your own house. So it's actually possible for you to be able to place a new sofa, love seat, lamp, and rug in your space without even having to order it and try it in your own home. Then there's the developers at Kebab. They work very closely with restaurateurs to digitize their menus so that the restaurant owners, customers who come in, can actually sample what the food will look like on their plate before they even place the order. That's the next calorie-free dining trend, in my opinion. And then my personal favorite of AR in recent memory, Pokemon Go. What a crazy thing that was. Did you pay attention when that happened? Pokemon Go is a video game that you put on your phone, and then you chase digital Pokemon all around the city, looking really ridiculous in the process. But it took the world by storm. And that was probably the most commercially successful example of augmented reality that I could think of. To give you a real estate example, we can look just south of the border, Realtor.com. Now, they've had an app available for a very long time, but what they've done recently is added AR features to their product. What it allows consumers to do is walk around in any neighborhood with their phone and actually hold the phone up looking at a house, and if it's listed, it will appear right above the property what the sale price is, bedrooms, bathrooms, links to multimedia. But what's really interesting about this particular innovation is it won't just show you homes that are for sale, it will also give you information on homes that aren't for sale. So for example, the one that is on the far side here, it actually says it's off market, whereas this one is pending and this one is new to the market. So your clients at their fingertips will have instant access to any information they want just by walking around with their phone in a neighborhood. Pretty remarkable, right? To give you a real life example of how AR has made a difference for me in my business, I want to introduce you to some of my closest friends, Adam and Michelle. In 2016, Adam and Michelle trusted me with one of their biggest investments, the listing of their townhouse and the purchase of their first family home. So before we listed their townhouse, we went onto the market to see what was available. They wanted to be confident that they would see enough out there that if they were to sell their townhouse, they could find something to buy. We saw enough out there for them to go, you know what, let's go ahead with this. So we proceeded with listing, and within a week we had an offer. And it was a good offer. Townhomes in Nanaimo at that point hadn't been selling very hot, so we didn't want to deter the offer in fear that we might not get another one in a relatively quick time. So we accepted it and negotiated a longer closing to give us an opportunity to be able to get out back into the market and find a home. And that's when we came across this property. For Adam and Michelle, this house was absolutely perfect. It checked off all the boxes. It was the right property size. They loved the floor plan. It would be ideal for them to start and raise their family in. But there was one significant problem. Michelle, as it turns out, is a sun worshiper. She loves the sun, and she wanted me to absolutely guarantee that in the summertime, she would be able to work on her tan in her front yard. Now it's the middle of November, guys, when we're looking at this property. And even at a showing where we were there at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, I couldn't see the sun over the trees. It's in a very rural area. You can see a lot of mature trees around, and it's actually at the bottom of a bit of a hill. So I found myself in a bit of a difficult spot. What do I say to my client? Don't worry about it. The sun will be there. Trust me. I'm seeing a lot of moss, on this side of the house. I don't know. That's a gamble I'm not willing to take. So I did what I commonly do in these situations. I turned to technology to see if I could solve my pain point. And that's where I found the app Sunseeker. Sunseeker is an app, costs about $20, that allows you to see where the sun is going to be at different times of the day. Not only that, it is actually going to show you where the sun's going to be at different times of the day at different times in the year. When I showed this to Michelle, she immediately grabbed my phone in my hand, proceeded to run into the house, and went through every room in the house and every corner of the yard, looking to see where she could get her bronze on at different times in the year. I'm excited to tell you that Adam and Michelle have been in their house now for over a year, and in the next 2 weeks, they're going to be welcoming their first child into their family home. It's going to be a girl. I'm really excited. Now, I do a lot of different presentations, larger, smaller, and one of my biggest things that I always try to remind myself before I go into any presentation is I want people to walk out with something they can actually implement. You see, education without implementation to me is really just another form of entertainment. So as much as I hope you guys find this to be entertaining, and I think so far so good, am I right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so far so good. I want to give you a few actionable steps along the way that you can start playing with this technology. So here's your first one. I hope you're paying attention. I would encourage you to download the app House onto your phone as soon as you leave the room. Don't do it right now. I need your attention for like another 30 minutes, okay? But when you're done, download House because it will allow you to virtually stage your home. I would recommend you go to your least favorite room in the house and redecorate it. That brings me to our next technology. Oh, there's the mic. Virtual reality. Now, AR, as we mentioned earlier, takes your real world and layers a digital one on top. Virtual reality actually takes you completely out of your real world and puts you into a virtual digital space. To interact with VR, what you're going to be looking for is a headset. And they come in all shapes and sizes and price points, anywhere from the premium quality around $1,000 to around $200 for the middle one, all the way down right to $20 for a set of Google Cardboard VR goggles. So really, the barrier of entry of price is no longer something that we have to talk about. To look at examples of VR in the real world, we can look at the NBA. That is now, it is now recording select games in full VR so that their fans can actually get the best seats in the house without even leaving their own. Then you can also look to the medical industry that is now training the next wave of future surgeons, very advanced surgery procedures without ever having to work on a patient. In education, organizations like Google Expedition are now inspiring the next biologists and scientists and astronauts by allowing students together to go on virtual field trips to explore the 7 wonders of the world without ever actually having to leave their classroom. And then we have the video game space. And these are the guys that are really pushing this industry forward as far as VR, PlayStation being probably the most popular one, where they have their VR headset with their handheld devices, and you can really get in there. In the real estate industry, you can look at Matterport, a very high-end, expensive 3D 360 camera, as an example of VR. You see the Matterport camera, and before I did this talk, I did a little research. My understanding is there's at least 2 photographers in Victoria right now that have Matterport in their portfolio, just so you're aware. The Matterport camera goes in and takes 360-degree view photos of properties and then stitches it together in what they commonly refer to as a dollhouse. This floor plan, or this dollhouse, allows the consumers to wear a VR headset and actually walk through and tour the home without even putting pants on. It's pretty remarkable. Now, speaking of remarkable, I will never forget my first real experience with virtual reality. And I'm curious, just show of hands, who has actually played with VR a little bit? Very good. Awesome. So a couple years ago, I was coming back from a conference. It was a Richard Robbins conference in Toronto. And I got to the airport a couple hours early. Got through security, got to my gate, and still had 90 minutes to kill. Well, it just so happened that there was a PlayStation VR kiosk set up right there. So I thought, hey, I got a little bit of time. Let's give it a shot. So I approached the kiosk. I said, hey, I want to give the VR a shot. How do I do this? They said, oh, have a seat. They handed me this headset. This is incredibly beautiful headset, fully wraparound with noise-canceling headphones. Like, it was the whole kit and caboodle. It was an amazing setup. She asked me, do you want to do a game? Do you want to play a game, or do you want to have an experience? I said, well, I've had a lot of late nights this week and networking. I probably don't have the motor skills right now to play a video game. Let's do an experience. I said, no problem, we'll get you dialed in. As I'm about to put the headset on, she looks at me, she goes, okay, it's going to be about 6 minutes. And if you can't make it all the way through, just take the headset off. So I looked at her kind of like, come, lady, all the way through? And then she looks right back at me, she goes, you'll see. So I put the headset on. 10 seconds later, I find myself in the middle of the ocean, some exotic place. I'm on a scuba diving expedition. I find myself in the scuba cage, and there's beautiful sea creatures all around me, turtles, fish, you name it, they're all there. It felt so real, I wanted to reach out and touch it. But don't touch the turtles. If you're ever vacationing, they highly recommend you don't do that. And it's actually illegal in some places. And it was interesting. I was being lowered in the ocean. And I could hear the silence around me of the ocean. I could hear the scuba gear breathing in and out, very Darth Vader-like. As I got lower and lower and lower into the water, I looked up and I could see the sun fading off into the distance. It almost felt cold. And as I got to the very, very bottom, as you can see, it's so dark you can't even see my slide right now. The only light that I could see was coming off the headgear of my scuba equipment. And now remember, this is fully immersive VR. So I'm looking all the way around. I can see all the way behind me, and there's nothing that I can see other than just what's about 10 feet in front of me. And that's when I saw it. Off in the distance, this giant silhouette. And here I am in my scuba gear, looking at it. It's looking at me, and it starts coming closer. It's when I realized it was a great white shark. I felt my heart rate raising, elevating. My palms were sweating. They're sweating right now, see? No, just kidding. My pits were sweating. Doesn't matter. But the point is, I was having a visceral response to this VR gear. It was sizing me up. It was swimming around the cage, darting back and forth, trying to think, what part does it want to eat first, I'm sure. And that's when it happened. It came right at me. It grabbed my cage, and I'm not kidding you, I literally felt it shake the cage. Feeling like an idiot knowing I'm sitting in the Pearson airport right now, coming back from a conference, like having this experience, but it felt super real. Now, I did make it all the way through to the end. Not with my eyes open, but I did make it through all the way to the end. And that is when I knew for sure that VR is the real deal, and I can't wait to start seeing how we can create this type of an emotional experience, maybe not this type, but an emotional experience for our clients. Now, as far as an action step for you to start playing around with VR, what I would recommend that you do is you buy yourself a $20 pair of Google Cardboard VR goggles, and you download the Matterport app. It's free. And on the Matterport app, they already have several luxury demo listings for you to go through and tour. You don't even have to schedule an appointment to do it. It's pretty cool. And I think when you're done with that, you're going to see really how much time and energy this might save. There's a story that didn't quite make the cut today, but the punchline was a realtor used VR for an out-of-town buyer that wanted to view 20 homes. He sent the VR links to his client, and they were able to narrow it down to 5 they wanted to see before they actually showed up for their marathon weekend. And by Sunday, they were under contract. That's a reduction of 75% of the homes they wanted to genuinely see. Ask yourself, how many homes do you show to your average client? How much time could you save them if you simply empowered them with the ability to tour the home without even having to leave their living room? Pretty cool. Okay, confession time. Now we're going to cover the third technology, blockchain. And here's the confession. It's super confusing, even for me. I was doing a lot of research leading up to this talk, and boy, oh boy, the rabbit hole is deep when it comes to blockchain. But I'm going to do my best to walk you through the basics, okay? So blockchain is, think of it like a digital accounting system, or a ledger as they like to refer to it. And this accounting system or ledger, instead of it existing, say, like your checking account ledger in your bank, it actually exists on the internet. A community of thousands of computers across the world that administer the blockchain network is where all of this technology lives. Now, the major benefits of blockchain when you're reading about it, here's some of the buzzwords that you can't see, but I'll read them to you anyways. Decentralized. What does it mean by that? That's a huge buzzword you hear about the proponents of blockchain, meaning no one organization actually controls it. The community, the network of computers controls the information. So think of Land Titles Office. They control, it's centralized. All the titles are centralized just there. If it was decentralized, the land titles would be on the network and no one organization would actually control it. Transparent. Blockchain is inherently transparent because this ledger lives on the internet and anyone, any of you, could actually go on and have a look at it. Now what's interesting, it's a bit of a contradiction, but it's also extremely secure. They use advanced mathematics called cryptography to program in the security so that when you're looking at something on blockchain, you may be able to see the transaction that's happened, maybe the price that was paid for it, but the identity of the people who were involved in it, completely anonymous. So there's a bit of a tension here between the transparency and the security. Then you have the speed. Blockchain is fast. We're talking transferring money for ownership in 10 minutes. And it's only getting faster. And this is the part I will alarm you when you start Googling about blockchain. This is going to be the part that makes you feel a little uneasy, is cost effective, which a lot of the proponents talk about the elimination of third parties and middlemen. Are we a third party or middleman? I don't believe we are. But it is definitely one of those things that you will read. Just don't be alarmed, because it is something that a lot of people are talking about, cutting out some of the inefficiencies in the process. Now, I want to walk you through a real-world example to maybe get a little bit more context on how this works. So this is my girlfriend and I's second car, and we're going to sell it. So that's actually why I got you guys all here. We're going to have an auction. Let's say you want to go home with this hot little number after the conference. And we wanted to do this transaction through blockchain. Now we're making some assumptions here. We're assuming that the blockchain ecosystem exists, which it currently doesn't yet. But here's how it might look like. You would come to me, seeing my ad on Craigslist, saying, hey, that's a slick whip. I want to take that off your hands. I go, okay, fantastic. Here's the price. You might ask yourself the question, I wonder who's owned this vehicle in the past? How many owners have there been? That's a fairly common question in the automotive industry. You would be able to see an absolute record that is unchangeable and uncorrupt of who's owned the car other than myself in previous history. It's also extremely secure when it comes to fraud. I actually don't own this car. My girlfriend Mandy does. So if I was trying to sell it to you, you'd be able to determine that I'm actually not the owner of this vehicle. You'd be able to tell really easily whether there's been any accidents, what the repair and maintenance schedule has been, because it would all be right there on the public ledger for you to look at. Assuming you'd want to buy it, because why wouldn't you? You could actually transfer me the funds for that vehicle without even having to go to your bank. And get this, without even using your mobile bank app. You could send it directly peer-to-peer, just like if I came up and gave you a $20 bill. No bank involved at all. And I, in turn, would be able to transfer you the registration and the ownership of this vehicle without even having to walk into ICBC's front doors. All of this without ICBC, without a salesperson, without a bank, completely without any intermediaries in the process. Just you and me doing it in a way that is transparent and secure. Now to take a step back, because as I say, blockchain can be a little overwhelming to go through, I want to give you some commercial examples. Bitcoin, you know, the nerd currency, right? Who's got a Bitcoin in their pocket right now? No? We're getting there. Bitcoin has got a lot of news and attention in the last couple months. In 2009, the very first Bitcoin was transferred for 6 cents a Bitcoin. In the last few months, it recently topped out at over $15,000 per Bitcoin. That's a significant run, and it's created a lot of skepticism around the legitimacy of Bitcoin as a currency. But consider this for a second. Currently on the internet, there are 2.5 million items that you can purchase exclusively with Bitcoin. So it is a real deal, and it's something worth looking at. In the healthcare industry, they're starting to play with blockchain technology as ways of digitizing patient records and making it easy to access between multiple doctors and other physicians. And a good example of this be, imagine you went on a Hawaiian vacation right now, and you're by the pool, you've had a few, what are they there, Mai Tais? You know what I'm talking about. You had a few Mai Tais, and you slip, and you hit your head. You're out, blackout. Not drunk, but like just blackout, you hit your head, you're going to the hospital. You could, through the blockchain, have your own personal patient records sent from Canada to the US like that, without even having to call your own hospital. You could allow them to access your documents just like that, and then when you're done, you can restrict them. This is probably my favorite example of blockchain in the legal system. When you start doing research on this topic, you'll find there's a thing called smart contracts. What is a smart contract? Well, simply put, it is a self-enforcing contract. So let's say Nicole and I agree on a price of a house. She's going to offer $400,000 in exchange for the title of the property. Here are the conditions, and here's the closing date. As long as all of those conditions are met and all of the terms stay intact, the transfer of ownership and the transfer of the money can all be done without the use of a notary or a lawyer. It's a self-enforcing contract. It's remarkable. Then we can look to our government. I bet in 2016 in the US, a little transparency around the voting would have been helpful. That's one of the first things the governments are looking to do worldwide with blockchain, is try to create some more transparency around how voting works. Where I get really interested from a government standpoint is putting records like the titles of properties, the ownership of vehicles, and other things of that nature on the blockchain so that it's accessible. To give you a real-life example in the real estate industry, Cook County, Illinois did a pilot project in 2016. And what they did is, in parallel to their own land title system, which works very similarly to ours, they also did a parallel blockchain title service where they created a digital token for every single property in the county, and they allowed for the transfer of ownership to happen by using blockchain. Now, when this pilot project was done, they wrote a white paper about what they thought about it. And frankly, it was gushing with positivity. They talked about all the efficiencies that they found. They talked about all of the opportunities that it created. And one of the biggest observations they had is it eliminated a lot of problems created by human error. And I can tell you, I've personally been affected by human error when it comes to real estate. This is me and the love of my life, Mandy. And in the top corner, you're going to see our very first condo that we bought together about 4 years ago in Nanaimo. Now, the last couple years, I've been commuting back and forth from Nanaimo to Victoria for work. And we decided, you know what? We're young. We don't have kids yet. Let's pick up our roots and move down to Victoria. So that's exactly what we did. And we bought a condo in this building just below in Royal Oak. Now, to make all the numbers work, Mandy and I had to refinance our condo in Nanaimo. You know, it's pretty common, young buyers climbing the property ladder. We needed to access a little bit of that equity. We didn't want to sell that, keep it as an investment, and move that money forward to our next purchase. Now, it was all set. Our mortgage broker was ready, the credit union was ready, the lawyers were ready, and that's when I got the call from my lawyer. And now, as realtors, we know when our lawyer calls on closing day, we're ecstatic because there's a check waiting for us at their office. But when that same lawyer calls you one day before closing day, not good. Am I right? Yeah. That was a real deep, yeah. We all know, we've been there. So my lawyer called. And the reason why he was calling is Mandy, which her legal name, Amanda, was actually not the legal owner of our condo in Nanaimo. I was on title, but so was Aminata. Now, I've never met Aminata. She sounds cute, but we weren't able to refinance our property because Mandy, or Amanda in this case, wasn't the legal owner and didn't have signing authority to initiate the process. We were already down in Victoria at this point. It was right in the middle of exam schedule for Mandy at school, and we had to hightail it, drop everything we're doing, and go right up to Nanaimo, 90 minutes up the road. I know for a lot of us in Victoria, we've never been north of the Malahat before. There's actually an entire island up there. I encourage you to check it out sometime. Ha ha ha. Yeah, you know I'm telling the truth. And we had to go meet our lawyer to sign a simple declaration that had to be done in person, that stated that Amanda is actually Aminata. So we had to clarify two things. One, Aminata is not my mistress. And two, Amanda is actually Aminata. I'm happy to say the story does have a happy ending, but boy, oh boy, that 24 hours of supreme inconvenience could have easily been avoided if our title system was on blockchain, because that human error would have never made it through the system. Now, I've been trying to pepper little pieces of action steps along the way. Admittedly, with blockchain, it's a little more difficult. You could, if you wanted to, go and buy your very first Bitcoin. You know, maybe if you hang on to it long enough, you'll be the next Bitcoin billionaire. But I'd completely understand if that's a little bit too risky for you. So what I would recommend in the meantime is you go into Netflix and you watch the documentary Banking on Bitcoin. And they will walk you through about a third of the content is about blockchain and 2/3 of the content is about Bitcoin. It's a really, really interesting thing. And my opinion, the best for last, artificial intelligence. My favorite topic, what I'm most excited for. Artificial intelligence, or AI as we like to call it, is essentially decision making that is done by computers based on predetermined rules, or as the nerds like to call them, algorithms, that give the artificial intelligence the roadmap for how to make decisions on our behalf. Now, as far as AI goes, what you're going to see in the day-to-day is a couple things. One, you might see an AI bot, as they're commonly referred to, living on a real estate website. Have you guys been on a real estate or a website in general recently where a little chat thing comes up, starts talking with you? Did you know most of the time that's actually not a person? It's not. Most of the time that is actually an artificial intelligence chatbot programmed to engage you and ask you qualifying questions and work you through the lead funnel. You'll also find examples on Facebook Messenger where chatbots are being built for realtors or any businesses to be able to communicate with their clients. A lot of the customer service departments for big blue chip organizations are utilizing chatbots to diffuse angry, irate clients just by going through a very simple sequence of questions and then directing them to the right department. Then we'll also have the voice-activated bots like Google Home, Amazon Alexa, Siri on your Apple phone. These are all examples of artificial intelligence in our real world right now that are out there for you to play with. To give you some more examples, we can turn to Netflix. You know, you're going to be watching that Bitcoin documentary soon, right? Have you ever noticed that on Netflix, after you've watched a few shows, probably more shows than you should in any one sitting, Netflix starts making suggestions to you. It says, you know, you've liked this show, you should also watch this, this, and this. Well, I like the idea of Netflix having a group of hipsters at some like bungalow in San Francisco, like hand curating shows for me and suggesting all that. The reality is that doesn't exist. This is artificial intelligence at work. They've looked at and somehow managed to create a rules-based system where they can look at all these different shows and match it to other similar shows that you would really like. I'm just curious, has anyone ever stumbled across a show that maybe they wouldn't have picked on their own but actually really liked it? Yeah, it does happen. We got one person in the back. Thank you. Appreciate that. A similar example would be Pandora. Pandora is an internet radio station. And what it does is it'll ask you a few questions. What do you like? Hip hop, pop, country. Does anyone like country? Is that a thing? Yeah, over there. I've just alienated half the room. Sorry. God. Speaker 101. I shouldn't do that. Sorry. But it asks you, what music do you like? And you start listening to some different songs. And then as you go, there's a thumb up and a thumb down button. Click on that a few times, and before you know it, Pandora is going to start suggesting music that you've never heard of. It's going to suggest titles, artists, albums. And the real lovers of this program, if you read some blogs online, they're going to tell you that they actually listen to music they would have never found on their own, thanks to the AI capability of Pandora. Another example of artificial intelligence at work would be Tesla with their autonomous driving feature. I would encourage you to check out YouTube. Type in Tesla avoids car accident. And you're going to see a number of different videos of how the smart AI system in Tesla is actually scanning the area. I've seen things like kids chasing a ball into the street that you wouldn't have necessarily saw where the car stopped. I've seen situations where a fender bender 2 cars ahead of the car in front of you that the car picked up on and was able to pull it down and slow it down. It's pretty remarkable. Now, another example you'll find in AI would be Siri. Has anyone ever chatted with Siri? Yes. Show of hands, yeah, we chat with Siri. I chat with Siri all the time. I talk to Siri, I ask her to send text messages for me, I ask her to make calls, send emails. Oh my goodness, I actually...
It wasn't me. I was just checking your
What
time.
happens if I say, "Hey Siri," really loud? Is everyone's phone going to blow up?
It wasn't me.
Wasn't you,
I
sorry.
was just checking your time.
Okay, I'm doing good, I got it over there. So Siri, I actually chat with Siri every single day, and it's really helped me streamline my process. As you can probably tell, I spend an immense amount of time styling my hair every day. Anywhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 90 minutes.
Wow.
And okay, there's some embellishment there a little bit. I've never got it done in 30 minutes, but I will ask Siri to send messages, read emails to me because I'm preoccupied. I'm in the zone. I'm in that flow state, and I don't want to have to put it down. And ladies, give it a shot. Works like a dream. Now, to look at some examples of real estate AI at work, you can look in California, where the California Association of Realtors built what's called an Alexa skill. Okay, what is an Alexa skill? With our smartphones, the programs that we have on them, we call them what? Apps, right? There's an app for that. Well, for Alexa, instead of calling them apps, they're called skills. So nerdy programmers will spend time building apps for cell phones, but they'll also spend time now building Alexa skills. And that's exactly what the California Association of Realtors did. They built an Alexa skill. So consumers can download this skill app onto their Amazon Echo, where Alexa lives. Really, 5 minutes? Okay. And you can start asking it. So you can ask questions like, "Hey Alexa, what's the average sale price in this area? Hey Alexa, how many homes are in the market in my neighborhood? Hey Alexa, what's the crime rate in this neighborhood? Hey Alexa, can you send me homes in Oak Bay from $500,000 to $1 million?" And the search result will be 0. She'll just say, "No." Yeah. Another example of AI at work is the real estate lead bots. So this is one called Homes. And what this will do is actually tie into an MLS system. Spoiler alert, it's not in Canada yet. But actually consumers can say, "Hey, can you send me more information on this listing?" And Homes will say, "Yeah, no problem, here you go," and communicate it with it. And you can actually jump in and start chatting with this client in real time anytime you want, or you can let Homes do the work. Now, this is probably the most interesting story I could find on bots in our industry. Inman News commissioned a contest in Denver, Colorado, one of the most active real estate markets in the US. And what they did was they pitted a bot against a broker in a 3-day contest. There was 3 different days. Each day a different real estate agent would go toe-to-toe with this bot. They had a real-life buyer, and what the buyer would have to do is pick their favorite listing off the hot sheets that day, give it to the bot and the broker, and the bot and broker were then requested to pick 3 alternatives on the market to that home that may also interest that client. Want to see the results? Of course you do. So this is probably not. Get the paper bags ready. So day 1, here's what happened. the bought home was actually selected as the first preference by the buyer. The bought also chose the second most preferred home, and the broker picked the third most preferred home. And I should have prefaced this by saying those 3 that the broker picked and the bought picked, they mix them all out randomly, give it to the buyer, all 6, and the buyer's asked to pick 1, 2, 3 in order of preference. So in this day, the bought picked number 1 and number 2 from the buyer. Day 2, the bought also picked the number 1 preference. The broker, woohoo, heartbeat, picked number 2, and the bought picked number 3. On the last and final day of the competition, the bought also picked the number 1 alternative. The bought and broker actually picked the same home for number 2, and the broker picked the third one. So 9 options, and the bought had all 3 top spots and 5 of their own and a tie. What do you think about that?
Scary.
Scary, but also, I think, very exciting. Time for action. If you want to start playing around with an AI bot, I'd encourage you to go to www.cleverbot.com and just say hey. Now, I want to say this here on the record, I can't take any responsibility for where that conversation goes, because in my experience, Cleverbot has a pretty twisted sense of humor, but seriously, it will start talking with you, asking questions, and when you ask it questions, it will fire back and has got a pretty wild sense of humor. Is anyone here right now? Feeling a little frazzled? A lot of information? Fair enough. But to cut through the noise and just make sure that we walk away with these 4 last action steps, we talked about augmented reality and how we can download the app House to stage our house. We talked about virtual reality and using the Matterport app to start viewing luxury listings. We talked about blockchain and how you can use or watch a documentary on Netflix called Banking on Bitcoin. And lastly, we talked about artificial intelligence, where you can start communicating with a real life, in real life artificial bot. I really want to finish with this, okay? My personal belief on where all this is going is not the extinction of realtors as we know it. I truly believe that by embracing technology, it will allow us to serve our clients at a deeper level and bring our clients closer to their goals and us, in turn, closer to them. And to really hit that point home, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes, which is, "We are drowning in information and starving for wisdom." You guys have the wisdom. You know the difference between one street that's a really good one and one that's not. And I think that is a service that is always going to have a value to our clients. But let's embrace technology as a way to cut out all the stuff that we don't enjoy doing. So with that, I want to just say thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.